Hello, everybody. It's Donna Corvata, and we're back again for another Real 50 Over 50 interview. And today I am just like tickled to bring you Laura Campbell. So I'm going to do a quick intro, but I'm going to start with Laura is my friend, and I'm so happy to spend some time with her today. But she is also a widely recognized author, speaker, coach, and strategist, and she's dedicated to helping women unleash their full potential and create meaningful, purpose-driven lives. She's got a passion for empowering women to reimagine what's possible. She's a trusted guide for high achieving women, executives, entrepreneurs, and innovators as they navigate challenges, embrace change, and design the life they desire. She's the visionary founder of Unfolding, a coaching and strategy firm, and the VP of Strategy and Partnerships, plus the principal consultant at InspireCorps, a woman owned, inspiration driven people strategy firm. And Laura is also an author, a speaker, a thought leader. She captivates audiences on podcasts, at retreats, and in communities on topics such as life transitions, resilience, and holistic well-being. And welcome, Laura. I'm so happy to spend some time with you today.
Donna. So good to be here talking with you.
Yeah. Let's jump in with your own transitions. I know you a long time. And
Many transitions.
When we first met, I made your head explode.
100%. I was like, oh my God, I've never met a force like this with information like this.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, I was kind of the deciding factor with you don't only want to have your own business.
No, you were instrumental. You've been instrumental in my life with your wisdom and your knowledge and just as a human and as a woman. And we can't, you and I were just talking before we even went live about the incredible community of women we've both built in our lives and what that means and why that matters.
Yeah. Yeah, it has made all the difference in the world at many stages and many ages. And but let's talk a little bit about, the transition from like when I met you, because you had just recently been divorced at that
Yeah.
point.
That's going back 20 years already. I mean, I've been divorced now a long time. And I often say to people that, there was my whole life up to my divorce. And then there was now a whole other life post-divorce, many lives post-divorce.
Mhm.
But the divorce was the moment that I actually had the realization, the awareness that we actually can intentionally shape our lives. Up till then, it was, and we could a whole subject for another time of why I felt so much pressure to do what I was supposed to do. And I did. I did it really well. I mean, nailed college, got a great job in New York, said at the same time started dating the man who would become my husband. So, got engaged, got my MBA, started having kids. On paper, it was like check, 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 check. Um, until, honestly, in my mid 30s, pictures from a birthday party, pictures of me. And I looked at them and it's like I had this out of body experience where I looked and said, she looks so unhappy and unhealthy. And I was both of those things. And it was really hard to speak the truth to myself of this. I'm not in the life that I'm supposed to be in. And I don't even know what the life is I'm supposed to be in,
Well,
but I'm
because
not.
you were busy being the person on paper.
I was busy being the person on paper. And by this point I had two very, very young kids. And now it's like, what do I do? What do I do? And where do I go? And that was the beginning, right? That was just the beginning. And hence the reason for the name of my business. It was really the beginning of my own unfolding. And there were many, you've been with me, many, high level. I can tell you it was going through the divorce, getting into what ended up being another 10-year relationship that didn't end in marriage and ended, but was another phase, another era of my life, and and then there was moving, changing careers midlife,
Mhm.
completely changing careers, moving to a place that was wrong for me and
Yeah,
only
yeah,
spending 18 months and going, this is not good for me. And then picking up
yeah.
and moving again across country. All of these things that if you would have asked me, if you would have asked that young woman who was sitting on the floor saying, oh my God, I think I want a divorce, like to myself and going, oh my
Who
God,
said
um,
that?
who said that? And what do you do with that? And then sitting here at this moment in time after all of those other things and saying, I never would have imagined any of it. Never.
No,
I couldn't have imagined any of it.
no,
None of
no. I mean, like, one of the experiences that I remember profoundly with you is when you had come back from spending, a chunk of time at the Modern Elder Academy,
it.
and early on, like, this is when they first started,
Yeah.
and we went to dinner, and, like, you were, like, physically, emotionally, mentally, cognitively cracked open,
There,
and you couldn't stop crying, you just didn't know what to do with it, and y I mean, you were okay 'cause there
yeah.
was a
Oh,
calmness
yeah.
to you, but you couldn't stop crying.
No, and that was after the the long-term relationship, and I had a moment, right? And so for anyone who's listening, I had a moment where I had been crying for months for no real reason, right? I couldn't what was happening? I had no idea. And I was like, there's something I'm supposed to do, but I don't know what it is. And it came forward to me because I heard an author speak, and that author was Chip Conley, and who had created Modern Elder. And I literally was pulled into saying yes to a 2 week immersive retreat. 2 weeks. I stepped out of my life for 2 weeks. Never done anything like that. It was scary financially. It was scary because I was walking away from my life and just saying, my job, everything, my kids.
Mhm.
And I went away. I went to Baja, and I found myself on the beach the first day weeping, going, oh my God, what have I done? And how did I get here? And then 2 weeks later, I saw you shortly after
Yeah,
returning, and
yeah.
not just was I broken open in all the most amazing ways, but when I got so, so, so quiet, I could hear myself, and
Mhm.
I could hear what I needed to hear in order to begin to shape the next part of my own unfolding. And I made a few commitments, had some big ahas. That's why I'm such a fan. And I don't even know if you know, but I am leading my own first destination retreat, immersive retreat in January of 2026. And really, why I'm doing it is
Mhm.
because of the profound effect that doing a retreat had on me. And
Mhm.
we don't give ourselves a chance to be quiet, to
Mhm.
quiet all of the noise so that we actually can hear what we need.
Yeah,
It's just busy, it's noisy out there today more
more
than
than ever.
ever. Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
noise.
and uncertainty, the uncertainty and the noise.
But uncertainty can be amazing
I
if
know.
we can expand our capability of living with it,
Yeah.
and not having I was my whole life someone that was like, I'm going to push through and make a decision because I need to make a decision, and
Mhm.
because I need to know, and I need to have a clear plan. And I missed so many opportunities. I have zero regret,
Mhm.
but I know that I missed important opportunities because I was so insistent upon that call for certainty was so strong that it didn't allow me to sit with. I didn't have the capacity to sit with uncertainty so that the thing that was next for me could emerge. I
Yeah.
couldn't do it then. I practice now. I practice it every day. I practice that, how much more can I just sit with not knowing
Yeah.
in service of trusting?
It's hard. I mean, we grew up in a time where we were expected to do certain things and, um, getting that job, who leaves? I mean, when I
Getting the
quit
job, getting the husband, having the kids,
all
doing
the things, I mean, I didn't take traditional paths on all of the things, but I had that job, and, when people thought I lost my mind when I quit my job. I had a great job, and you know what? I'm out almost 19 years, and I speak to the people that I worked with, and they're still doing the same stuff. They're
Mhm.
fighting the same fight. They're arguing for the same whatever it is they're arguing for, but it's the same. And it's mind-boggling to me because I think of all of the things that I have done in 19 years. The ups and the
Oh my
downs and the
gosh.
sideways and the ideas and the flops and the
And it's hard
successes and the
to
people and
listen, I have lived my life in service of, of over these years. I have built now with intention. I've built my life by living in service of what my soul is telling me, uh,
Mhm,
which is which has done some things that were perhaps societally not okay, right? Like divorce for me it's still societally not okay, which is shocking to me, but societally there's still divorce. There must be a victim and a villain, and somebody did something bad versus perhaps this didn't work. Anyway, that's a whole
and maybe, it doesn't even necessarily need to be that it didn't work. You were married for 20 years.
so, it's like
Maybe it ran its
we get
course.
to evolve. We get to evolve.
Yeah, it ran its course.
Yes, but, my parents are in the house I grew up in. We've been
Mhm,
married 61 years, right? And I have moved, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times since the house that I got married in, and I moved away from my parents in their 80s. Who does that? I've lived 15 minutes from my parents my whole life, and then I moved away. Why? Because I it was time for me to leave there. I couldn't continue to evolve. You know, People look and they're like, "What are you talking about? You left your parents." Well, I'm in this journey with my parents,
mhm.
and
Yeah,
that's a whole other subject.
I love
Again,
the way you handled that.
but and I'm deeply committed to them,
Yeah,
deeply committed to them, and I've made that an intentional choice. But there
but
my
you have extraordinary parents.
I have extraordinary parents. I do. I do. And I also know that we get to shape our lives and that there's infinite possibilities for the way that we can make choices,
Mhm.
and none of them are wrong.
No, no,
None.
Mary is chiming in, and she's saying she loves this. Going on our own path is challenging, but so rich and exciting. Change can be a superpower.
Yeah, and I'm the person who really lived in the same town for my kids went to the same high school I went to. So
Yeah.
like I lived there forever. So it was monumental, and part of going on that 2-week retreat was saying, I'm supposed to be doing something else.
Yeah.
I am missing a part of me that has been dormant for so long that I actually can't I don't remember what that part is like,
Mhm.
and it happens, Donna, so slowly
Yeah.
that we often don't even know it's happening, like, we start to lose connection to a part of ourselves, and it
Mhm.
goes dormant, and then all of a sudden, we're like, "Where did it go, and how do I get it back?"
I know, I mean, when I met you, you were antsy with, like, you were, stuck between, everything had to be a checklist and I want a whole new life. And you were just stuck in the middle of that, and you were just like you could feel the angst coming off of you, and now you are like the calmest person.
Well, because you know what, I've been writing a lot about this, is that, so I had to find, and actually I've built my business now and my work in the world on this intersection of, I have an MBA in strategy and strategic planning. So I am all about actionable plans
Mhm,
and spiritual openness.
mhm,
And that tension that you're talking about was this balance that I had to build and had to find comfort in this balance with, I do have to take action,
Mhm.
small action, and I have to leave enough space spiritually to be open to what shows up and to trust that there's some uncertainty, and I believe this, you will know when you know. There's a
Yeah.
moment that you know, and sometimes you cannot force that moment to come no matter what you do. There's a moment where you wake up and you say, "I'm supposed to move. I
Mhm.
don't even know where, but I
Yeah.
know I'm supposed to move," which has happened to me,
Yeah.
right? Or I'm supposed to leave this relationship and I don't know how. And then we start from there, right?
Mhm.
Then we start from, okay, what's the first step? Just the first step.
And that is so important, and the way that you work reflects upon that, um, because you're not that coach that's telling somebody what they need to do. You're that coach that's holding the space so they can explore within
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah. And I'm gonna gently nudge.
Yeah,
And I'm gonna gently nudge because this is uncomfortable work,
yeah,
right? We have to wrestle with the discomforts that come with some of the decisions, right? Like when I decided where I really wanted to be was near the mountains, and the only way to get there was to leave to go farther away from my parents. So
yeah,
what was the discomfort? How do I show up as the daughter I want to be and pursue being finding belonging in a place, finding the place I belong?
yeah.
And right, okay, I can do that. I can do both. I can figure it out. What is that going to look like? And start to play with, and be an open conversation about that tension.
Mhm,
Life, it's not going to be without tension and discomfort.
mhm.
Don't jump into the ring of discomfort. We're never going to access some of the amazing things that are possible and some of the experiences, you know, that we're meant to have.
Yeah, yeah. And, like, now in this period of time that we're living in, there is so much uncertainty, and there's just like, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But there's a other side to that, that I'm so excited to be here now. I'm so excited to be at this stage of my life right now and, like, be exactly where I am. And,
Yeah, yeah,
in spite, not even regardless, in spite of all of the lunacy that's happening around us, I just think, the flip side of that is that there's so much opportunity and there's so much room for things to be better and to be part of something that's actually gonna bring change for, like, not to sound a little hokey, but, like, for humanity. I mean, I really
yeah.
just feel like we're there.
You know what? Yes, and we have to set ourselves up with the people. We have to intentionally choose how we're gonna navigate this moment in time, right? Like, who are we surrounding ourselves with? What are we giving ourselves permission to do or not to do, right? Like how much of this do we let in? How much do we not? I'm reading a great book if anyone out there is interested. It's by Ezra Klein. It's called Abundance. And
Mhm.
it talking about this some are fixated on what was. Others are really fixated on the unbelievable challenges and craziness of the present moment. Where we're not spending a lot of time is in what's the vision for what's possible.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do that because even for myself, I'm like, what I wake up every day, I'm like, what the well, how did we get here? And I am really committed to staying focused on what's possible and then
Mhm.
backtracking to what does that mean? What does that
Yeah,
mean
what
for
does that mean?
me? What does
Yeah,
that mean for all of us? How do we do that?
we
But it's
do.
really a moment for big intentionality. How are we navigating? And I am not someone who wants to bypass reality. Like
Mm-mm.
there is reality. We've
Yeah.
got to be in the
No,
reality.
no rose-colored
No
glasses.
rose-colored glasses. We feel what we feel. We're at where we are. But destruction often comes before reimagination and reinvention. So we have to know that and decide, intentionally choose how we want to show up in this moment.
Yeah, and we've got some really good comments here. Um, Suzanne is saying now's the time where we have the opportunity to change the chaos. Thanks for being ready. And I don't have a name here, but she's saying, "What's the vision for what's possible?" She loves that.
Yeah.
And Dawn is saying, "Agreed. So much room to make something better for others, small and large." Also love Laura.
Dawn. Yeah,
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 and then
no,
and
I
then we actually have a question.
yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
Somebody, I can't see her name. She's just coming up as a LinkedIn user, but she's struggling with her family wanting to move back and the fear of losing herself and getting wrapped up in her mom and her daughter's lives. She did that
Mm.
for so long and doesn't want to go back. Is that selfish of me? Any words of wisdom?
Oh, yes, so much. Listen, I have lived with feeling selfish for moving. So my parents are in Connecticut. They're turning 85 and 90. And I decided just a couple of years ago to move out to Colorado. I'd lived within like 20 minutes of my parents, and I almost could feel the eyes of those around going, "You selfish woman, how are you leaving them?" Because I have a brother, but I'm
Yeah,
the one.
the other
And
one.
um and I had to say, I can't be for my kids. I can't be for my parents what I want to be unless I am living a life that feels deeply inspired and moving. And I've got this long life ahead of me, and I only have one. I say long life. I have no idea, but
Mhm,
I'd like to believe I have a long life ahead of me. And so, what I would say is, what the question actually addresses are two things: having hard conversations and boundaries, setting and honoring boundaries. And both of those things are really, really hard and take enormous amounts of practice, and really allow us to proceed feeling in integrity, feeling honest, that there's no way around it. I do so much work with people on helping them. I happen to be really good at having hard conversations. I've
sure,
just practiced for a long time to do it from a place of love that actually is in service of the relationship with the person you're communicating with, and in service of their growth, right? That's the important part. And we have to have separate lives from those around us in order that we can show up more fully for those people in our lives. So happy to have that conversation. And it's very, very hard. And we have been just smashed over the head as women our whole lives by society, sometimes by our families, that it is selfish and or irresponsible to build our life around what we actually want it to look and feel like. But
mhm,
it can be done, and it can be done in
mhm.
service of the relationships we wanna have with the people around us. I believe that, I'm living that. Not
I
easy.
Yeah, I remember when you first moved to Florida before you moved to Colorado, and you were going through, like, how are you going to manage this with your parents and your kids at the time, I believe they were both in college or, like, just out
Yeah,
of
yeah.
college, but, it was your parents that were the real sticking point, and you called me one day and you were like, "Well, they're just gonna get an elevator." And I was like, "Oh my god, that's brilliant."
You know what? I mean, I should say we, my parents and I, because 'cause we've had open conversations. I mean, what their lives going forward from here looks like has been an ongoing conversation between all of us. I share what I'm scared of. I share the way I want to show up for them. We co-create together how we're going to continue that continuity. I share with my children, right? I've raised my children, they're independent and I love them more than anything, but right now my attention frankly has shifted to my parents.
Mhm,
Now there's a limited time with them. And so we are in our whole family unit is in this. What does it look like to shepherd these two beautiful people towards the end of their life? And how do we all show up while also holding on to, you know, a guilt-free life. I need to live my life,
Yeah.
and my kids need to live their lives. They're not responsible for my happiness. They're not
Yeah.
responsible for my parents.
Yeah.
But I want them to one day say, I showed up who as who we want to show up,
Mhm.
how we wanted to show up as grandchildren, how we
Mm.
want to show up as children.
No
And that's
regrets.
those questions. And
Yeah,
what does
no
that look?
regrets.
No regrets, but also I don't have to sacrifice my life to
Mhm.
love others.
Yeah.
That's a really important thing. You do not have to sacrifice your life to love others fully.
I didn't have that experience because I was the only one having that evolved conversation. Nobody else wanted to be part of that. They were busy on the guilt and blame side. And
And
very
let me tell you, hard conversations don't have to be conversations.
no.
Sometimes it's actually, "This is what I need to share. It's the truth of how I feel."
Yeah.
Kind,
Mhm.
loving, clear, but sometimes firm, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
it's just communication that is out of the best part of of our hearts, but others can't engage in it, or they can't show up.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we shouldn't say what we need to say.
No, and sometimes it's just a conversation you need to have with yourself
And
because
and and guess what? We're not meant to do it alone,
no.
right? That's why we are in community with other women. That's why coaching exists, to be honest. But it doesn't matter if it's a coach or a friend or both.
Mhm.
People that you can say, "Talk through this with me. How do I do this? What do I do? How do I do it incrementally? What's the first conversation to have?" And not be afraid of it, and not be afraid. And I have had more conversations where I have had a little mini baby script, and my voice has shaken, and I've literally said at the beginning of the conversation, "This conversation is really hard for me, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's the truth."
Mhm.
And my voice is shaken and tears have come,
Mhm.
but I'm still having the conversation.
Yeah, and when you do, regardless of how hard it is, after that, like, all that doubt um, and lack of self-trust and, you know, uh, self-value, self-worth, all the selves, it puts all of that at bay because
Not
you
Yeah.
faced it. You
Well,
faced it.
not only that, you find your courage, which then leads to confidence. We find freedom. There is freedom in having honest, transparent, truthful
Mhm.
conversations. It is the most liberating thing because we are standing in our truth. We're standing in integrity. And by the way, we are modeling this for the people around us, for
Mhm.
our children.
Yeah.
We are teaching them that
Yes.
this is how you navigate complexity. We don't run, we don't ghost, we don't make things up, tell little mini lies. We
Mhm.
actually, and it's and if things are lost along the way, I can't tell you how many relationships that, okay, they didn't continue on, but there was honor in the way that we moved forward,
Yeah.
right? Or we lose an experience, it's okay. It just makes space for the things that are meant to come in. It hurts. I'm not saying, again, I'm not bypassing that there's not grief or loss or challenge in that. But the word that's come forward for me so strongly this year is alignment.
Mhm.
Aligning our lives around what matters most, aligning our relationships to the truth of how we feel. I'm in a new partnership, and as you evolve in a new relationship, there are lots of hard conversations. And each time I start with, I made a commitment to myself to always speak my truth. So I'm going to speak to you. His name is Andy. Andy, I'm going to speak to you from my truth. And and then we'll see where we go from there. I may risk that there might be loss. That's okay. Because the commitment I made to myself was that I would speak my truth.
Mhm.
And every time he shows up and we're in this conversation, and it just brings us closer, and it makes our relationship stronger because we can have honest conversations,
Yeah.
and it's liberating and it's fun, and I feel strong.
Mhm.
So
A
it really
conversation isn't
works.
gonna break it.
That's right. If an honest conversation is gonna break a relationship,
It's
that's
already broken.
it's already broken. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. Well, my goodness, we've already gone a half an hour. We can probably stay here for 5 or 6 hours.
Oh my god, unquestionably. Unquestionably.
I want a couple of things. One, I wanna thank everybody that put comments in and, joining in the conversation. If you're watching this on the replay, tag us and we'll come back and we will keep this conversation going because it is so critical. And, I know before we wrap this up, there's something else that you wanted to talk about, which is something you shared with me before we started. Um, which was how much we do in broken heels. Can you
Yeah,
talk about that for just a sec?
I will. I have a blog. So I have a newsletter. I write every, I don't know, 2 to 3 weeks. You're welcome to join it, everyone, by going to my website.
Yes, I'll put the website up.
It's not a salesy newsletter. I just love to write. So I just like to, as you can hear, I like to share, the things that I'm experiencing because while my journey is unique, it's also universal. There's also
Mhm,
a universal nature to it. But I have a blog coming out that I wrote about broken heels. I had seen a song and the lyrics about, how we women, how we can we do so much even in broken heels. And it just, in this moment in time, I was like, right, we are all, maybe we're hobbling, maybe we're, tripping, maybe, it's hard, our feet hurt, but we're going and we are doing it step by step, even if we're stumbling. And I think it's just really important to remember that that we are moving forward. The sun is going to come up every day; it's going to go down every day, and time is not going to stand still. And so we can reset each morning, and we can move forward in the day, even if our shoes break, even in a broken heel, we're going to get it done.
mhm. I love that.
Yeah, me
I love
too.
that. Thank you for sharing that, and, um, I like to wrap up these calls asking for a wisdom bomb, something small, actionable that people could take with them.
Okay, I'm gonna put out a little bit of a challenge. Here's my
Okay.
challenge. Here's my challenge. Find 30 minutes, go outside, sit on the ground. I want you, some part of your bare body to be on the ground, your feet, your hands, whatever it is. And I want you to just sit. No book, no phone, no pen, no journal, no food. Just sit. No music. Quietly for 30 minutes. You can set a timer if you'd like, but just sit. Some of you are going to say, there's no way I can just sit quiet for 30 minutes. And that might be true. But I'm really curious what happens for you during those 30 minutes and what comes up for you. I just want you to quiet the noise and really listen. Listen to your heart and listen to your soul for just a couple of minutes. Well, 30 to be exact. And let us know. Please let me know. Find me and let me know how the experience was for you.
Yeah, either tag Laura on this,
Okay.
comment thread or reach out to her if
Yeah.
it's something that you're not comfortable
But
sharing
you've got to be
publicly.
touching the earth. I want you to be touching the earth in one form or another, the grass, whatever.
Okay, that sounds great.
That's my
Well,
challenge.
thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Laura. You
Mhm.
can find Laura at yourunfolding.com. She's also pretty active on Facebook and LinkedIn, and she's here on our Real 50 Over 50 page. And you were on one of our panels a couple of months ago too,
It's great.
and you can find her there. And we will be back next week with another Laura, Laura Templeton.
Love it. Amazing. Donna, thank you. Thank you for including me in the extraordinary community of women that you've built. It's incredible.
This is my favorite place to be.
I know.
Have a great rest of your Wednesday, everybody, and we'll see you next week.